Darth Veda. Darth Veda. Assalamu alaikum, Darth Veda. I
Walaikum
always
salam,
see
Mufti.
that
How you
name
doing?
and I think,
Okay.
wow, I like it. I like it. How are you keeping? What's going on?
Yeah, good man. You see that name, yeah, but I'm shocked you ain't seen Star Wars, man.
You know, as a kid, I did. I think the early ones, but I never, for some reason, I never gravitated towards that kind of cult watching of. So I just didn't find it interesting. I don't know why. That's a good question. I need to introspect that. Why
As a
neither
movie
Star
critic,
Wars nor
yeah.
Star Trek.
As a movie critic, man, seriously, you need to watch the best movie ever made,
I think
hands
you know
down.
what I think. I think I'm not so drawn to sci-fi. I think that's it. But that kind of sci-fi, like a small amount of sci-fi, like let's say the Terminator or stuff like this, is fine. But the whole thing, like let's say spaceships and all this stuff, I just didn't. I don't know. Like I didn't find myself drawn to it, and I would be drawn to other kind of movies. But yeah, so maybe that was it. Maybe it's the sci-fi genre. Yeah.
It's a cross between Sufism, politics,
Yeah.
and
It
theater,
is. It
and
is.
that's
I
why.
need to.
So,
It's George Lucas, isn't it?
yeah.
The director. So he was from what I believe, a good friend of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Sufi, Ian Dallas, who I believe influenced him, and he was inspired by Sheikh Abdul Qadir, Ian Dallas, about the whole Sufi Sheikh Murid relationship, which I believe he then sets as the theme in Star Wars. So that whole kind of disciple thing is inspired from what I'm aware of by him learning from Ian Dallas, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Sufi, this whole Sufi kind of tariqah, because Sheikh Abdul Qadir himself was into Tasawwuf, and he himself became a kind of sheikh that had murids, and he was from those upper echelons of society, shall we say, the upper classes, not the likes of us plebs. you know, they were a different elite class of people, I guess. Yeah.
Right. So today's question, right, for you is going to be basically, I remember once watching a video of yours, and you
Sure.
mentioned something about Noah. Um,
Noah. Oh,
do you
Noah
remember
alayhi. Yeah, Noah. Yeah, yeah.
his age being a
His age. Yeah.
thousand less
Hmm.
50, right? And
Hmm.
you said that there could be two counting systems.
Hmm. I mean, there can be multiple counting systems, not just two, but yeah, yeah.
Well, well, in the Quran it mentions two numbers, right? So it can only be two specific counting systems, right?
Mm, no, right. Okay. I mean, I'm not sure. When you say two counting systems, what are the two counting systems that we're referring to?
So
Just so I know what we're talking about.
numerical systems, um,
Yeah.
well, we take for granted that everyone counted to 10, for instance, right? So
Hmm.
we call that base 10, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
we
Yeah.
currently use a base 10 counting system.
Hmm.
The Romans, for instance, used to use a base 5 counting system,
Sure. Hmm.
right? So I've been looking into this, and
Yeah.
I
There's
believe that.
multiple. There's so many people use. I think some people had 13. They had, I think, 27 as a baseline. There's 60 as the Sumerian kingdoms had. As they would often use. It's called a sexagesimal kind of counting system. And even certain research shows in places like, I believe, Papua New Guinea, it's interesting how they count. So from the hands, then it goes to the wrist, then the elbow, shoulder, then it'll go to the ear, then the nose is in the middle. So it's an odd number that they have. And then on the other side. So it's, if you, it, these are as diverse as human settlements. So yeah.
Mhm. Well,
Mhm.
if you apply the
Yeah.
base 5 counting system to the number 1000, it gives you 125. If you minus 50 from that, which is the base 10 number, you
Sorry,
get
say that again.
75.
Sorry, you lost this. Go. Say step up. What did you say? If
Right.
we
So
start from
So basically, I think that in the verse in the Quran, I think it's alluding to two different counting systems. One was the one that was pre-Arab counting system, which would have been base 5, which the Romans were using. So when I guess when the Bible was canonized, it would have been a base 5 counting system, right?
Okay.
So obviously, the time during the Prophet's time, the Arabs would have been using a base 10 counting system. So I think it might be alluding to the fact that, clarifying the misconceptions that it wasn't 950 years that Noah lived for. He lived for basically 1,000, as in a base 5 number, which would be 125, minus 50, which is a base 10 number, which gives you 75.
So the 1,000 is what? How are we getting the 1,000?
So if you convert the 1,000 from base 5 to base 10, it gives you 125.
Right. Just explain, just so we follow. Just so we
Right.
follow. It's not the outcome. I know the outcome already of what we're saying, but just to understand how you're beginning with 125, just so we understand that. How are you beginning with 125?
So I take.
So when you're saying base 5.
Yeah. So basically, right. If I just
start your times. So you're multiplying 5. Yeah. Sorry. Carry on. Yeah.
Oh, you don't multiply 5. Right. So where was I going with this now? So basically, when you look at the Quran, when everybody looks at the Quran, they see things differently, right? So a mathematician that's looking at the Quran will see things differently to someone who's a scientist who might see the Quran. They'll see certain verses differently. So my background is more like accountancy, mathematics. So when I'm looking at that verse, I see an equation. I see a mathematical equation.
Okay, sure.
So when I take that mathematical equation, put it into algebra, now the two factors I need to solve are I can't remember the words, Sama and Ama, is it something like that?
Yeah. So Alfa Sanatin illa khamsina aman. Yeah. So it's 1,000 except 50 am. So 1,000 sana except 50 am. Yeah.
Yeah. So
which
when
both,
I see the mathematical equation there. So 1,000 x minus 50y.
1,000 minus
minus 50y.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So we know what y is because that's that would be base 10. So we just need to know what x is, what base is x in. So if x is base 5, that would give you, when you convert it. So if you bring up a converter on the website, you see,
because this base thing, just to understand how you're converting it. So when you're saying 50 arm, which is, let's say, 50y, you said, so that's base 10. So what are you saying? In essence, it's what, 5?
No, 50 is 50 in base 10.
50 is 50, yeah? 50 accounts for 50 years.
That number is already a base 10 number.
Okay, so that number remains intact. Now, the other number, the 1,000, you're dividing that. Are you dividing?
No, so you're converting it. So the way that you can't just take 1,000 and think you're going to divide it by 5 and get into base 10. So it works like, for instance, you got 5 fingers on your hand, right? So you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you get to number 5, that number changes to a 1, like as in one hand, and 0 fingers. So 5 would be written as 10, right? So if you keep going up like that, so the next number would be, so 6 would be written as 11.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yep. So 7, and then when you get to like 10, that would become 20 because you got 2 hands now, right?
Okay.
Right. So if you keep going up to 1,000, that's actually just 125.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Sounds very interesting. Sure. Okay. So it's 125. I mean, that sounds obviously. Yeah. No,
you get 75, which is a reasonable figure.
Yeah, of course. But the question here would be that, you see, when you say 1,000 sana, why is it saying 1,000 sana? Why? Because the Arabs wouldn't normally say that unless they meant 1,000. So the question is like, why is it being said to? Because I get what you're saying if people were doing that, but people didn't do that in the Prophet's time. So the question was, because this is the question that everybody's going to ask. This is the same question they were asking me, for example. Why is it being mentioned? Because if people don't count like that, then like people in that time wouldn't be converting 1,000 when they say 1,000. They would just mean 1,000. So, yeah.
No, but
What would you
you've
say to
answered
that?
your question. It seems like that word has been used differently to signify a different counting system.
Yeah, of course. No, but that isn't that the same. Isn't that what I just said in my video?
Yeah,
In
but what
the
you
age
didn't
of
say was what that
Nuh.
counting system was. So
Oh,
that's
right.
why.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not. Yeah. So you see, because what I had said was this was talking about Nuh alayhi salam to a people that would have had some heritage, like the Jewish people with their tradition. And there is the anti-deluge numeric system, which is pretty much lost on us. But we have the deluge, post-deluge kind of numeric system. So if you look up, in fact, you can get it on Wikipedia or Google it, the name of the kings, the anti-deluge kings and their reign. And you'll get a list of these rulers from the Sumerian kingdom. And it would state ridiculous numbers to how long they ruled. But nobody, even the Sumerians, did not mean that. And the Sumerians, we know, also used, and I'm not saying that's used in this verse, but they also used a 60 baseline. So they would multiply everything by 60. This is why we have today 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour, and we have 360 degrees, because it's taken from the Sumerian kingdom where they had a baseline of 60. So we know that, but that's the Sumerian. But the anti-deluge, what was that? Like we're not exactly. That's like pre-flood. Like what did they have? So we know that they must have had something about numbers, because when the kings are being spoken of, it's being spoken in crazily absurd numbers. Like that's no way on earth going to be realistic. Like this person had 50,000 years and this person ruled for this long, and they themselves admit in other places, no, it was only this many years in between. So you know that so when they're using these numbers, they obviously have some weird kind of system. So the Quran, because Nuh alayhi salam would have been anti-deluge before the flood, it was echoing that in my in what I was saying. But what was the exact counting system? I'm not sure.
Don't you
Obviously,
think
I
that
mean,
this is refuting the claims of the Christians and the Jews from the Bible that he lived for 950 years? So wouldn't the Quran be clarifying that it's not 950 years in, how 950 years? It's actually this number means this and minus 50.
sure. I mean, I didn't think of it in the sense that is it as a refutation, but I suppose it could be. It could be. But one could ask. You see, the only problem there is one could say, well, if it came to refute, it like apparently most people didn't get it, because they would say that, well, because most people actually still believe it. So if it came with the objective to refute, then it didn't do a good job, because most people still today then believe what it was trying to refute. So I would probably say it didn't come to refute, and the verse doesn't sound like it's refuting anything. I would say that it was just once again, like the Quran says, that it has come, look, musaddiqan, like affirming the prior scriptures. And so, in this sense, when it's speaking about Noah and Noah alayhi salam and the incident and the flood, and it's mentioning certain things, it refers to the age as well, because it was a prominent factor in the Judaic kind of tradition. But it highlights different words and does it on purpose in a way that affirms the narrative, but also shows that it's not quite, because the Quran could have said quite easily 950 years. It could have said this aman, for example. That's very clear, 950. But it says, oh, it was 1000 minus except, with the exception of, and then uses two totally different words in Arabic to say year. So it says 1000 years, but use a different word, with the exception of 50, use a different word for years, So it shows that there seems to be layers to this, but at the same time, it seems to be only for those who are interested in exploring it. For other people, it doesn't matter. Like, they could just read it. That's not the point. The point is the overall story and Nuh alayhi salam's struggle with people. That's the main point of the story. And whoever ponders over this, maybe they will have certain things opening up on them as well. So I think, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. But yeah, shukran, Darth Veda. You're doing it, yar. You're doing it.
Thank you for your time.
No, likewise.
I'll ask you one more thing. You don't have to answer it now. You could do it some other time, maybe.
Sure, okay.
I'm not sure if you've been seeing what's been going on with Farid and Dr. Hani.
I haven't, no.
Right, okay. So he's basically trolling Dr. Hani like he used to do with you. And Dr. Hani's taking the bait. Would you like to offer him some advice, like privately, because I think he needs it.
Who? Farid?
Dr. Hani. Dr. Hani Action?
Because I was going to say, I don't think, I'm not in touch with any of them, with Dr. Hani or Farid, but sure. I mean, if somebody wants my advice very openly is that, look, there is no khair in that kind of thing. I know, to be fair, I did it myself for so many, for so long. And so I can say in some ways that, when you do something yourself and you do it with passion and you get kind of embroiled in all of this, and then you later step away and see, you can speak with experience, and you can speak with experience of mistakes as well. And you can speak with experience of development as well, because so I can say that, look, I was well embroiled in all this stuff. And one of the things that I realized as I'd kind of taken that step away and just been more mindful is that these things are, what they are? They are entertainment. And it's not a healthy entertainment. And when you're on it, it has a kind of gravity to it that it sucks you in, and you remain locked in its orbit. And I'm not saying anything, because I've been there, and we've all been there, but many of us have been there. But once you do free yourself from this orbit and you can see it from a distance, you realize this is not what the faith is about. It's not actually even, it's not healthy from an iman perspective. It doesn't even leave you, honestly. Like, I can tell, because I used to do it, and I can tell that it leaves a darkness or an imprint of darkness on your soul. And but you just, at the time, because you're in the moment and the momentum, you go with it, and you kind of just tolerate, or you do it, like, you don't think about it. But from a distance, you feel the difference of weight, if I can use that word, of the soul. And you think, yeah, this stuff is so taxing on that. And this is why, even to Farid, my advice would be not that he would be interested in my advice, but people had said to me, I think several months ago, they had said something, and would you want to engage, or would you? I said, look, I think all of these things are meaningless. And I said that, look, I honestly, from where I find myself now on the plane of consciousness, I said that I think we proactively, as everybody, as a collective, need to break that cycle of toxicity. And one of the most difficult things a person can do if they don't like someone is make dua for them. And that's because it's difficult. It's crazy, because a person thinks, I ain't gonna bloody wish that person well. I don't. But this, once a person can arrive at that maqam, they can say, you know what? May Allah bless them, keep them happy. Beyond that, there is an enlightenment that can only be experienced and cannot be expressed in words. And it is what the people call that kind of dhawq. It is something else. And that's my words really to them. But if Dr. Hani, I think I did actually send him a message a few months ago, I think on Instagram, but I don't think it was him. I think it's his team. And they just said I think it was just like an automated reply, because I had sent a message. People had told me, look, would you reach out to him and ask him to be a guest on Mindtrap? So I did, but he said he was busy, and that's it. Respectfully said so, and I said, yeah, appreciate that. But yeah, if he wants to be in touch, sure. I think sometimes people have to walk their own path, and they have to arrive at their own understanding. But yeah, in the end,
a lot of this Dawah movement is everyone thinks they're the gatekeeper of Islam and that they're going to bring others to Islam. And it's like, do you guys not understand that Allah brings whoever He wants to Islam? Isn't this like foundational belief here?
Something I'm gonna say something which I think before I would have struggled to accept is I feel, in essence, at heart, we spoke of movies. There's a movie, can't remember what it was called now. I watched it ages ago, but there was this quote in it where they're in prison, and it's like one of those kind of crime movies. But the point is, the person, he says, we all began as somebody's little angel once. You see, in light of that quote, I do believe most people are, in essence, the origin. It is stemming from a place of love for the deen. I think now I do recognize that. Initially, I wouldn't have. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I would never have accepted that before, but I stand corrected. But along the way, that love is misplaced. You see, the reason I said that quote is he says, we all began as somebody's little angel, like meaning, with their parents as kids. But along the way, people, you see, this toxicity corrupts people. It takes people, obviously, it puts you into this cycle of hatred, of, just spewing against people. You get a fan following, people kind of big you up, you do it more, and this becomes your thing. You see, it becomes your thing that you react, but in essence, I do believe I believe all of these people, honestly, even Farid, this isn't about him, but let's say even Salafis who before I'd spoken against, different people, examining now from this perspective, I do feel that most, if not all, do start, when it comes to the faith, those who take it seriously do stem from a position of love. But along the way, there's distractions. And then sometimes people derail themselves and they kind of go off that path. But that fuel, in essence, it does begin with that. So there is this, you've
just basically described the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker.
Have I?
Spoiler alert.
Oh, that's epic, man. Yeah.
But, thank you for your time.
Shukran, Darth Veda. I appreciate it, man. Much love, man. All right. Take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum. People, Darth Veda, pleasant conversation. MashaAllah. May Allah bless him. So